Abraham Lincoln said it was the key to the South. Join me today as we talk about Vicksburg National Military Park and the key to winning the Civil War from Vicksburg, Mississippi. Jenn, Walk with History, historian, veteran, and here at Vicksburg National Military Park, we're going to talk about the siege of Vicksburg over 40 days in 1863, from May to July 4th. This military park is going to show you the siege lines between the Union and the Confederacy. So come with me, let's start as we enter the Union lines. Vicksburg National Military Park, there's over 1,300 monuments and markers that mark where the Union line and the Confederate lines were during that time. You also are going to get a 16-mile driving tour with stops along the way, kind of reminiscent of Gettysburg or Shiloh, where you can stop and read the information and get out and take pictures, much like we're doing right now. Also, this park is 1,800 acres. So when you think about the Union encompassing the city of Vicksburg, this is 1,800 acres to show you kind of what it looked like during that 40-plus day siege of the city. Because Vicksburg is such an earthwork kind of battle, you're going to see signs like this where trenches were dug by the Union side and the Confederate side. Of course, the blue signs will be for the Union, the red signs will be for the Confederacy. Here at Vicksburg National Military Park, I'm at the Battery de Golyer. This is typical of what it would have looked like during Vicksburg, where they put these cannons in one central location. The Confederacy would spread out their cannons. The Union likes to put them in one location and bombard the Confederacy. This is one of the few places you can actually see the Confederate line way out there. You see the red signs of the Confederacy far off in the distance. This also gives you a great view of these state monuments here. These different states that fought have put up monuments. The dome out to the right here is of the Illinois. There's also 2 antebellum homes that still survived the siege that you can see here today as well. I'm standing in front of the Shirley House, the only Civil War structure that remains from that time here on the Vicksburg battlefield. This is what's referred to as the White House. It was owned by Judge Shirley. And even though Shirley was an enslaver and owned slaves, he was a Union sympathizer. His son actually joins the Union Army. Now, it's used as the headquarters for the Illinois during the Battle of Vicksburg, and it's right beside the Illinois Monument. But it's here today for you to come visit on the battlefield of Vicksburg. After the Civil War, this battlefield was dedicated. And during that time, different states would come in and dedicate monuments to their people who fought in the Civil War. And that's why you're going to get different state dedicated monuments around Vicksburg. 17,000 Civil War troops are buried here at the cemetery in Vicksburg, more than any other cemetery in America. Illinois Monument overlooking the battlefield here. What's really nice about this Vicksburg battlefield is this location gives you a nice view of both of the trench lines, for the Union and the Confederacy. What you're going to get on the outside of the Vicksburg battlefield is these state monuments to the northern states. This is Illinois. As you take the road around on the backside of the Vicksburg battlefield, closer to Vicksburg, you can get all the Confederate state monuments dedicated to those states that fought in the Confederacy. On May 19, 1863, the 55th Illinois was taking heavy gunfire and running out of ammunition. 14-year-old Orion Howe volunteered to cut through the enemy lines and find General Sherman and let them know he needed ammunition. So it's near this spot that 14-year-old Howe will find Sherman. And Sherman is so impressed. The kid has been shot through the leg with a musket ball and hasn't given up. Lets him know that the 55th Illinois is bogged down, needs ammunition. He needs the cartridges. He makes sure he gets them. But Sherman makes sure that this young man gets his citation for the Medal of Honor. And Howe, at 14 years old, is the youngest recipient to receive the Medal of Honor. So this is the northern part of the Battle of Vicksburg. You have to think of it as a C and the letter C surrounding the city. You have the Confederates digging in surrounding the city and the Union facing off with them to basically overcome them. And this is why this is a siege from May 18th to July 4th, is they basically are holding out each other until the city has to surrender when they can't get supplies in. We're at the northernmost point here where you see the Mississippi River. So it's a sea along the Mississippi River where both sides are fighting to get the city. Jefferson Davis and Abraham Lincoln both understand the importance of this area. And this is why this is the key to the South, the key to winning the Civil War. She went down in 12 minutes, but not a soul was lost. The crew on the USS Cairo consisted of 158 sailors and 17 officers. They all were saved, but they had to leave their personal effects behind. That's what you'll find here in the museum. Once this was dug up, it took time to raise it, and all the personal effects were found aboard the ship. Because it sunk so quickly and it was buried in a level of the silt, everything was preserved on it. They raised it about 100 years after it sank, and it sank December 12th, 1862. Here at the museum, they have the original bell, they have the original pump, a lot of the original armament, but this is the first armored vessel ever to be sunk in warfare.
I've looked the devil square in his face, been a brother, a rebel, been scared, been brave. I do all I can to try and get home, but I can't make a promise on what I don't know. We pray to heaven and we fight like hell. There ain't no one to save us but God and ourselves, till they call me on back or they bid me farewell. I'll keep praying to heaven.
Here at the Battle of Vicksburg, they have these monuments to different states that fought in this campaign of Vicksburg, and this is the one to Missouri. What's so interesting about this one, not only is it beautiful, but it represents the Union of Missouri and the Confederates of Missouri, because the state had men that fought for both sides. And this is really the brother versus brother kind of idea statue here, because you had family members who fought family members, neighbors who fought neighbors, and even when the surrender happens here between Pemberton and Grant, both men, even though they are talking about their terms of surrender, they can relate because they both went to West Point and reminisce about their times at their school.
For all of these sins, we pray to heaven and we fight like hell. there ain't no one to save us but God and ourselves, till they call me on back or they bid me farewell. I'll keep praying to heaven and fighting like hell.
What's interesting about Pemberton is he went to West Point, where he's roommates with George Meade. If that name sounds familiar, George Meade is commanding the Union Army up at Gettysburg at the same time. Pemberton is going to lose this battle, and he's going to surrender in 1863. After the Civil War, he goes back to Pennsylvania, where he's from, and he eventually will die there. When he surrenders in 1863, that's the end of his service to the Confederate States of America. Here at the end of the drive of the battlefield of Vicksburg is going to be the statue to the Confederate President Jefferson Davis. Now, Jefferson Davis famously said, to him, Vicksburg, Mississippi was the nailhead that holds the South two halves together. At the start of the Civil War, the Confederates will have the Mississippi River from Cairo, Illinois, all the way down to New Orleans. After Vicksburg, the Union gains control of the entire Mississippi. That's why this is the key to winning in the South. You essentially have cut the South in two. Logistically, they will never recover. And Vicksburg and Gettysburg, that happened the same time, July 4th, 1863, are the turning points of the Civil War. If you want to see more historical content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to Walk with History on YouTube and listen to the Talk with History podcast. On to my next Walk with History.